All right. Thank you very much for joining my webinar. So I believe that you guys are doing well. Okay. So during this CMCO or this COVID-19, I believe that it has affected all of us. We have to live in a new norm now. We have to change. Some people are stuck at home. Some people, they have lost their job. So it is either there are two things we can do, I believe. Either we sit at home and wait, which we don't know until when, it will go back to normal. Or the second option is we can do something. Like what I did was I convert this. This is supposed to be a corporate training because in the corporate, people have to do a lot of presentation. So what I do is instead of waiting for corporate jobs, why don't I, turn it to an online training? I will do, this online for a while. I believe that there are a lot of people who will benefit. Okay. So let's start. Now, this is a different kind of a presentation, I would say, methodology, which over the years I have refined. Okay, now let me get my clicker. All right. All right, now let's start with a false claim. This is not a false claim, a fair use disclaimer. Because my presentation uses a lot of, I would say, visual images, and most of the images I use are actually royalty free, but there are, of course, there are some which is not so. But under the fair use disclaimer, you can use it. You can say that under the Copyright Act, you can use it for criticism, comment, news reporting, teaching, scholarship, and also research. Okay. Now I am actually at retirement age. I'm 61 years old now, and I have about 40 years of experience in sales and marketing. I have worked for companies like Ericsson Telecommunication and also the Hong Leong Group before I came out on my own. Now I have done a lot of things in my life. Those people who knows me, at one point of my life, I was heavily involved in the multi-level marketing business, which I did very well. In 2003, I was awarded the Outstanding Entrepreneur Award by the DSAM. And I was also invited to speak in University Malaya, UITM, and also an e-commerce leadership convention. Now, over the years, actually, I would say starting back in the 80s, where I first got involved in the multi-level, the first company that I got involved was, of course, Amway. And we need to do a lot of presentation. And back in the 80s, this is how we design our slides. There is no laptop, there is no computer, there's nothing. So if you are about my age, you should have seen this. Now, how many of you have not seen this before? If you have not seen this, can you just in the chat box, just type, you have not seen? No, just type a no. At least I know how many people have not, seen this before. Some of you have not, some of you have. Actually, this is it's just like a film, but it is in positive. You just take this because I was also into photography. So it was quite interesting when doing up all these slides. So what we do is we actually take photograph, but in a slide format, and we send for develop to this Photoshop. They will make it into a slide for us. And actually it just started from there. But the only thing about this back in those days is all the slides that you made, you cannot put text. So you have to remember your script. Okay. Now let us now when that was the first time actually also in the late 80s. I went to a seminar. It was a seminar held by American. That was the first time I saw him using PowerPoint. I was thinking, wow, this is fantastic. You know, with the PowerPoint, you can do so much without, you don't have to literally go and take the photo and develop it into a slides. But also, there are also a lot of setbacks because there are a lot of people who actually they overuse PowerPoint. Now, from here, I would like to share with you a very stunning report done by Harvard. Now, Harvard had just discovered, actually this was about a year ago, September 9, 2019. Harvard says that PowerPoint is the worst software ever developed. Worse. It is worse than useless. Just imagine, this is I would say it's so negative, it's worse than useless. It's just like you're telling somebody is useless. Worse than useless is what? Moron, isn't it? Now, is it really PowerPoint? You see, there are 500 million PowerPoint users globally. 500 million. Now, I don't think 500 million will find PowerPoint. If it is that useless, I don't think people will start to use. According to Microsoft, PowerPoint was the best software acquisition they have ever made. Actually, PowerPoint was first developed for Apple. It was first with the intention of developing for Apple, but Microsoft bought it. All right. Now let's take a look at how people uses PowerPoint. How do they develop slides? Now these are some slides which is I managed to got it from the internet. These are some of the slides from some well-known organization. You can see even Microsoft, Bill Gates. There was a screenshot here. Companies like IBM and Cisco. Just look at the slide. A lot of information, isn't it? Don't you think it's a bit too much? Now, why do even well-known organizations create slides like this? Do you know why? Because the presenter do not have to memorize the script. With PowerPoint, you can just put everything up there. You just read. And according to Guy Kawasaki, some of you may have known him. He was the former chief evangelist of Apple. Now he is the chief evangelist for Canva. Now he earns I would say the rights to say, he can claim that 90% of the presentation sucks because he is a venture capitalist. He listens to presentation almost every day. So he can tell, in fact, he wrote books. There is one very popular book he wrote about, it's called Enchantment. It's about presentation. Now, actually, how do we use this is how we use most of us just put the text, all the text up onto the PowerPoint, and don't you think that your audience can read the slide faster than you? Okay. Now, why do they do that? Because big companies are doing it. So when people are doing it, when it's your turn, you just do it too. Because everybody is doing the same. You see? So when everybody is doing it, it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. So you think that, most of us think that it is like that. I also used to develop slides like this with a lot of text. Now, either the presenter or the trainer, the person who is using PowerPoint, do not know how to use it correctly, or they think it's not important. I know that there are some people who think that it is not so important. I have attended a seminar before. So one of the audience made a comment about the slides. So the presenter, he was very defensive. He said, oh no, it's not important. What I'm teaching, what I'm saying, what I'm going to say, what I'm going to share is more important. Yeah, he may be right. What you are going to share is more important. But if the slide is not important, why do you use it? There are very good presenters who can present their ideas without slides. I'm sure if it is not important, don't use it. Okay. Now let's take a look at this. This is a seafood restaurant in Lukut in what do you call Negeri Sembilan, Lukut near Seramban. I have been to this restaurant twice. Is there anything wrong with this restaurant? No, there's nothing. There are plenty of this in Malaysia. You can find plenty of them where? In Klang, in Pandamaran. The food is fantastic. There is nothing wrong because we go there, we go for the food. We don't care about the environment. I know it doesn't look that clean, but the food is delicious. Who cares? But when this is a fine Italian restaurant and you are the master chef and you have a Michelin star award, and now that is, everything is important now. Don't you think so? People go to a fine Italian restaurant for many, many reasons. It could be due to your food. It could be due to your environment. It could be due to, maybe you earn a Michelin star. It could be anything. Now let's take a look at some of the, during this MCO, I actually attended quite a number of a webinar. So what I did was I actually screenshot a few of them. Now I'm not trying to run them down. I'm just using that as an example because these three trainers, they call themselves master trainer, and in the webinar, they say that they are running a program that will teach you how to make millions, And one guy even talk about $1 billion. He teach people how to make apps. He says that, you can, he can also teach you how to make apps like TikTok. Maybe, who knows, it can go to $1 million. If they are promoting $1 million and a billion, even $1 billion business, don't you think that the slides ought to be better? You know what I call this? This is called incivility. They are trying to, you know what they are trying to do? Huh? They are thinking that the, the audience are okay. They are insulting the audience intelligence. Don't you think so? Now, let me ask you a question. I'm sure all of you watch movie, right? Now, let's talk about watching movie online, not going to the cinema. Now, what is the lowest resolution that you will go for? Lowest. Are you going to settle for 360 resolution or 480? Or maybe some of you, it's minimum is HD or full HD. Now let me tell you, the standards are getting higher and higher. Full HD is 1080. People are buying 4K TV now. And if you go out and see, actually they are now starting to promote 8K. And they are developing 12K and 16K. Now, have you ever watched DVD? I bought a lot of DVD 20 over years ago. I started collecting DVDs. But today, when I play back my DVDs against what you call a full HD, which I can watch over Netflix, it is so much difference because DVD is only standard definition SD. They are only 480 resolution. They are way, way below even full HD. So, you see, when we watch a movie, we want to watch it at high definition. At least, I would say, at least HD. But as a presenter, you are using slide which is like this, which is even not attractive. Don't talk about appealing. You know what I mean? Let's take a look at some of the presentation slides which is developed by professional designing slides agency. Now, this is a very famous presentation design agency. It's called Dote.com. The person who owns this, her name is Nancy Dante. Actually, she have a TED Talk. She wrote 4 books. You look at the slides that the company are producing. These are professional. Let's take a look at another one. This is buffalo7.co.uk. This is a UK company. Now, the first 3 slides is actually slides developed for the Champions League. Now, those people who like football, I'm sure you know the Champions League. The bottom 3 slides are actually developed for the Great Britain Olympic team. You look at the slides. People pay thousands and thousands. It could be hundreds of thousands just to design compelling and attractive slides. It is equally important. Now let's take a look at this. I'm sure you know what company is this. This is Nike. Okay. They have to, because these are big companies. But even for your own, you can design slides like this. Why? Let me tell you why it is so important. Now, according to Sequoia Capital, which is a venture capitalist company, now when you go and pitch for investor to invest money in your company or your startup, so investor will sit down and listen to what are you going to present. You have got only 5 minutes, by the way. If you cannot attract my attention during the first 5 minutes, you are gone. No one is going to take out money to invest in your business. Now, I'm sure you have watched this program before, right? Shark Tank. Now, they don't even have a chance to use slides. So what do is they present their product, the business that they are, what do you call or the startup that they are doing, and whatever they are going to pitch for money. And there's another one. This is even more interesting. This is called the entrepreneur elevator pitch. Why this is even more interesting? Because the person who is pitching for investor to invest money, they will have to go into an elevator lift, the elevator. And the elevator will have only 60 seconds, which is 1 minute. You have to pitch. Inside there's a camera, and 4 of these investor or judges, they will look through the, what do you call they will look at what you're going to say in a TV, and you have to pitch inside the elevator. Only 60 seconds. And they will decide whether they are going to let you open, they're going to open the door and let you come out and continue your presentation. Now, this is very interesting. If you have not seen this program before, you can go online and go and search. You go to YouTube. There are plenty of them. It's very interesting. You see how they pitch. Now, they don't have the, what do you call, they are not allowed to use slides, of course. So if you are allowed to use slides to present, don't you want your slide to be helping you? Or rather, you want to use it so that, this, what do you call, put all the text up and the audience will, they will read faster than you. Do you know that they cannot, when they are looking at the slide, when they are reading it, they cannot actually at the same time listen to what you say? Now, according to a research done by 3M, it says that the human brain actually processes visual information 60,000 times faster than text. Every one of us are visual. Now, we can only remember 10% of what we hear, 20% of what we read, but 80% of what we see. Now, why don't we, do an experiment now? Now, I want you to close your eyes. Just close your eyes, don't worry. I'll watch out for the person sitting next to you. Now, I want you to recall your first date. I'm sure every one of us remember our first date because it's the first date. Now, you recall your first date. Where did you go? What did you do? Did you take your date out for dinner? Or did you go for a movie? Or did you go for a walk? Or you could be at the beach. You could be in a very romantic what do you call environment. Can you remember? Now you can open your eyes now first. Now let me ask you this. Do you retrieve all the information in text, in words, or in images? I'm sure it's definitely images, right? No, nobody retrieves information from our brain in text. I don't know. But every time I think of something, I recall something, it is always in images. Now, all of us actually are visual. But some of them, they are more visual than others. Now, visual storytelling, every one of us like to listen to story. Now, visual storytelling, especially in movies, all right, movies are just easier to get so much. They are the best form of storytelling. Now, I'm sure you remember, you can recall this scene, right? I'm sure you can recall, isn't it? Now, this scene is iconic. This scene is from the movie Titanic. And the famous line from this scene is, "You jump, I jump." And the character is Jack and Rose. Now, this movie could be 20 over years old, but I'm sure you can still remember if you have watched it before. Why? Because movies have got the ability, or images, especially movies, have got the ability to imprint into our mind. When the image is imprinted in our mind, it is very difficult to forget. Anything that triggered, you will remember, and we will retrieve information back from our what you call mind, our CPU, in the form of images. Now, during the MCO, I actually have a lot of, everyone are stuck at home. So there is one movie I would like to watch again. I couldn't find, but during the MCO, because I have got plenty of time, I managed to find this movie out and watch this movie. It was not in Netflix. This movie, I seen it only once when I was in Standard 1. And when I watch it again, certain scenes, it is exactly the same as I remember. This movie is Thunderball. It's the James Bond movie. And this is the only movie that is a remake. Also by Sean Connery. It's called Never Say Never Again. I watched both of them again. Now, this program that I have developed is called Cinematic Visual Storytelling. Now, you use movie. I actually use a lot of movie making elements. I put it into slide designing, and it's not just only designing, it is developing the whole presentation, designing and delivering it. All right. Now let me go through the step one by one. Now first, as in the movie, to develop the story, that is the job of a screenwriter. Now the screenwriter, it could be an adaptation from a book, from a comic, like this is from a comic or that adaptation. And it could be an original plot. Now the screenplay have to be in dialogue form. So why it has to be in a dialogue form? So that the actor can actually memorize the script, practice it, and when they were doing the filming, they will have to, it's just like talking. It's not just, it's more natural. Now, story is very important in movies. Now, just to illustrate the point on the story part, now, how many of you have watched these two movies? These two are identical movies. It is based on history. Now, Pearl Harbor was attacked by the Japanese, and they, one day later, the Americans fought with the Japanese in Midway. It's called the Battle of Midway. There are about, I think, 4 to 5 remake on this story. But this was the two, I would say, latest one. Now, the Midway, not Battle of Midway. There is another one which is older. It's called the Battle of Midway. There is also another version called Tora. I have watched all of them. Now, Roland Emmerich was the director for Transformer. And Pearl Harbor was directed by Michael Bay, the director for, Roland Emmerich was the director for Independence Day. Michael Bay was the director for Transformer. Now, Midway did a box office of 123 million. They have a budget of 100 million. So they are still making, but not so much. Now, this movie is quite recent, only last year. Now, Michael Bay version was in 2001, 18 years ago. Now, 18 years ago, the money, of course, is bigger, you know. You have got a slightly bigger budget of 130 million. But this movie did 449 million box office. Why two stories? You would say that Midway probably the filming, the what you call special effect is even better because it's very recent. That was 18 years ago. But if you have watched Pearl Harbor, the effect 18 years ago, Michael Bay also did it very well. But why Pearl Harbor did so well? Because Midway was directed, this director want to direct it very close to history. The events that take place are very, very close. But it's not documentary, all right? Now, Michael Bay version is a bit different. He add in a love story, which is fiction. Now, it is, if you have watched this movie, you would have remembered it's a triangle love story. Now, it touches people's heart, you know, it's emotion. They talk about empathy. They put in a lot of this emotion inside this movie. It's very touching. That's why it did so well as compared. Now, same story written differently for a screenplay. Now, how do they write the screenplay? This is how they write. The most famous structure for writing screenplay is called the 3-act structure. A 3-act structure was often credited by Aristotle for originated this. Now, Aristotle is a person from which era? 400 BC, you know, it's 2,000 over years ago, a Greek philosopher. Now, this is what he did for writing stories. And now all the, novels and filmmaking, they use this structure. Now, they have Act 1, Act 2, and Act 3, the setup, the confrontation, and the resolution. And it looks something like this. It looks like a roller coaster ride. Don't you think so? When you go for a movie, it's especially movie that is, with a lot of action, a lot of suspense, you know. So they will take you up to climax, you know, that kind of thing. So they will start with the intro, which is the plot. Then they will introduce the protagonist. Protagonist is the main character. Now, the protagonist can be a good guy, it can be a villain, it can be a bad guy. Just like in the movie Batman is the protagonist. But in the movie Joker, which is the bad guy, he is the protagonist. Okay, protagonist is the main character. Then they will create some tension. Then they will introduce the antagonist. Antagonist is the opponent. If the protagonist is a criminal, then the antagonist is going to be the detective or the police, the opponent. Then they will create some conflict. Now, if this is a kung fu movie, then probably the conflict is the robber would probably kill the family, and probably the main guy got escaped. And then he have got no choice because he wants to take revenge. He will probably go to Shaolin Temple and learn some Kung Fu. And when you reach the climax is, he is already well prepared. He learned all the Kung Fu and he wants to go downhill and look for the person who killed his family and take revenge and create some new tension. And there will be the final battle. I'm sure you love Kung Fu movie, right? The final battle, in Ip Man, the final battle is on the stage where he fight the Japanese. Then the reward. Now, nowadays, when they are talking about writing screenplay, they are very clever. Sometimes they don't come up with an ending. Why? Because if the movie sells well, they are going to have a sequel. And if they ran out of sequel, what they do is now they go for the prequel. They are very clever, just like Star Wars. How many episodes they have created? Now the question is, can you construct a presentation using movie making narrative elements? Can you? Of course you can. Now let's take a look. Let's take a look at how Steve Jobs did it. During the iPhone launch in the year 2007, I'm sure many of you have watched this. If you have not watched this before, please go to YouTube and search for this video. It is uploaded in YouTube, the iPhone launch. This is a very iconic. I tell you, he did so well. That's why Apple, when he launched the iPhone, actually the iPhone was not ready when he was doing the launching. This is how Steve Jobs uses the 3X structure. Let's take a look. Now, the first, he introduced the plot. The plot, of course, is the company. He says that every once in a while, a revolutionary product comes along that changes everything. And Apple have been very fortunate to be able to introduce some of this to the world. Then he further elaborated by introducing a hook. He says that in 1984, we introduced the Macintosh. It didn't just change Apple, it changed the whole computer industry. And then he introduced the protagonist, the villain. Now, the main character is the villain. Why? Instead of the main character is the iPhone, it is the villain. Because this is the problem he wants to address. Why? You remember smartphone that we used 20 years ago? How is it like? There is a small keypad, right? And we type in. Now, this is how it works. According to, excuse me, according to him, to Steve Jobs, the problem is that they are not so smart and they are not easy to use. And he further expand the problem to show you a contrast of how difficult is it to use. Cell phones are not so smart, dumb phone. Then they have got this Motorola, they have got this Sony and the famous BlackBerry, as compared to the iPhone, which is going to show his audience. Okay, iPhone is, you see the contrast. iPhone is going to be very smart and very easy to use. Now, the smartphone have caused the pain, the negative effect, which is the buttons and the control cannot change. You see, he says that all these smartphones have got all these little buttons. And when you have a new feature, you can't add a button to it. And every phone is not standard. No? Every phone will have different arrangement for. I'm sure you have used phones like this before. Before this, I was using a window phone by HTC. You can slide it up, in horizontal, and the whole phone is actually, it's like a computer keypad, a miniature keypad. Now then he introduced the fix, the recommendation. The recommendation is that we're going to get rid of all these buttons and create a giant screen. Now at that time, nobody have seen this before. So he showed the magic. The magic is the product that makes the hero. So who are the heroes? You see, if the main character is the villain, the protagonist, the antagonist is the hero. So who is the hero? Is it the Steve Jobs is the hero? Or the phone? The phone is not the hero. The phone is the magic. The audience is going to be the hero because he's going to sell this to the audience that this will help them to solve the problem. So when we do a presentation, we are trying to convince people, that we are trying to, what do you call, win people over our idea or our concept of what we are going to share with them. It could be a product or it could be an idea. Now, you have to come up with a very creative way to tell them that what I'm telling you actually will solve your problem. So they're going to be the hero. So what can it do? What are the unique selling proposition? It works like magic. There's no stylus. It's more accurate, blah, blah, blah. All right. Now the attack, we have to show proof. Now his company have been very creative. Apple, they have done it before with the mouse. You know, the mouse was created by Apple, not by Microsoft. They have come up with the click wheel. The click wheel is actually from this, what do you call that, iPod. And now they come up with the multi-touch, Then the roundup, that's the final battle. Now he could not list 200 over innovation one by one. It will take a long time to explain. So what he do is there are more than 200 new invention that they are filing for patent. And this is the kill. Now this is not a sales pitch. This is the investor pitch. He is launching this phone, and all those people who are sitting are actually shareholders. They are investors. Probably they want people to buy the shares or to invest more money. Now the kill. Now whatever that you are presenting, at the end, you have to go for the kill. That is your call to action, the CTA. Now this is his projection on iPhone sales. He says that we only want 1% of the market share, which is 10 million, because the total market is about 100 million. No, it's more than that actually. All right, he only want 1%. 1%, which is equivalent, yeah, that is about 957 million, which is about 10%, and that's what they are going for. And actually, this is what they did in the first year of launching. People line up, you know. Even now, every iPhone launch, people will line up overnight just to buy the new iPhone. These people are so crazy. You know why? Because Steve Jobs did a very good job. He managed to create a tribe that people follow. People who use iPhone are different breed of people. Now, what happened if iPhone were to do it differently? Just like any other people, just like Microsoft, just like any other, just like IBM. He put all the text up. And he says, I'm Steve Jobs. My slides are not important. What I have created or what I'm going to share with you is more important. iPhone is more important. And I want you guys to invest another 100 million bucks. You think this investor will invest? No. Some of them will probably leave the scene. Now, this is how he did it. He introduced the plot first. Then, he introduced the villain. Then, the pain, the fix, the magic, the power, the attack, the roundup, and the kill. So can you put your presentation in this format? You can. Every type of presentation that you are doing, whether it's a pitch or whether you are selling a service or whether it's a reporting, you can do the same format. So the first rule of movie making is show, don't tell. You don't have to put all the text up. I'm going to show you, after that, there are a lot of examples of slides that I did. I'm going to show you how I do it. And you don't have to remember the script. There are techniques that you can use that you don't have to memorize. People ask me, you know, Ronald, your slides have so little words. So what do? You memorize? You say, no, yeah, I memorize a bit, but there are techniques that you can use. Now, the first rule of movie making is, if you watch a movie that you see one guy only, you know, talking about the story, telling you the story, you wouldn't be interested. This is the same thing. Now, let's take a look at how a movie is made. A movie is actually made up of many, many, many scenes, right? They have, if you are a moviegoer, you would have known, they have scene one, scene two, scene three, then they add up all the scenes together. Now, let's take a look at how they film the scene. And every scene starts with an establishing shot. Now, what is an establishing shot? Establishing shot is the starting of the scene. The scene will bring you to the main subject or the main story of the scene. What are they trying to tell you? Now, can anybody, this is the settings, this is called the settings scene. And it is an opening scene of a very famous movie. This place is called Dead Horse Point in southern Utah. Anybody knows? Then let me show you how this scene is all about. John Woo, director from Hong Kong. Tom Cruise. This is MI2, Mission Impossible 2. Now, the starting of this scene was actually shot by a drone. Back then, they already start using drone, right? And of course, the famous Tom Cruise is he don't use any stuntman. He himself did the climbing. Fantastic actor. Now, can we use this technique and put it into our slides? Even though it is stationary, it's not moving pictures. Can you? You can actually. This is how you do it. You first design the slide, you click your slide and let your slide move a bit first. They have animation that you can use. And let the slide do the part of the story first. Then after when, it is only a few seconds, actually it's very fast. Then after that, you will take over and continue the elaboration. You elaborate on it. Now, why it is so important? Because you're going to use the slide. When you show the slide, you don't speak. You let the audience get enticed by your slide. Your slide have to be very attractive. So when they look at your slide, it could be, wow, what is it all about, But the slide is going to show you, it's going to tell part of what you are going to say. It is going to lead you just like this. It's an establishing shot to lead you into what you're going to say. All right? Now, in movies, in order to visualize the whole thing, they use the storyboard. And the storyboard was actually created in the Walt Disney Studio. And the guy who is pointing to the visual, they used to draw it, is actually Walt Disney's. So when you start to plan to develop your slide, you can also use the storyboard. Now this is going to be the villain and hero storyboard. And there's only, you see the structure, the main structure have only 9 slides. It's the plot, the villain, the pain, the fix, the magic, the power, the attack, the roundup, and the kill. But every slide can be expanded. You can expand every slide. But it depends on how long is your presentation. Like this presentation, I also use this format. But I have to elaborate because I'm going to show you a lot of visual. And actually, you can turn this into many, many, many different type of presentation. Now, this is the pitch deck. If you are pitching for investor. Now, why do I come up with this idea with the pitch deck? Because I watch a lot of Shark Tank and what do you call elevator pitch. At the same time, I also went to 2 crowdfunding events in KL. I went to 2. I want to see how the Malaysians, when they have got what do you call a business startup, they want to pitch for money. How do they do it? Okay, and I find that they still have got a long way to go. Now, this is how it is done. You can modify it just like a movie. Nowadays, when they do movies, they don't start from the beginning, Especially Christopher Nolan. If you've known this director, he likes to, to jump here and there. You know, he could start the story with 5 years ago, then recall back, that kind of thing. Now, you don't have to be similarly this, but the most important thing is you must have a storyboard. Now let's go to the second part, which is designing your story, which is designing your slide. Now in the movie, that is the job of a cinematographer. Cinematographer is the guy, is the cameraman, is the guy who is going to do all the visualization. Now let's take a look at this. Every year during the Academy Award, when they present the Oscar, there is a award that goes to the best cinematography. And this was the year 2017, 2017 or 18. They present it probably in 18. These are the 5 movies for nomination. The first one is called The Shape of Water. Second is Mudbound. Dunkirk, Darkest Hour. Darkest Hour is about the what do you call the Prime Minister of Great Britain. And Blade Runner 2045. Who won this? Blade Runner won this. Now, the cinematography for Blade Runner is fantastic. It is very gloomy. It is difficult to film. If you have watched the first Blade Runner and the second one, they try to put it as close as possible to the first one. Now, very gloomy, very dark, which is very difficult to film. But out of all these 5 movies, the movies that I like best is Dunkirk. Now, let's take a look at Dunkirk. Dunkirk is actually a war movie by Christopher Nolan. If you don't know about Christopher Nolan, he directed the Batman trilogy, he directed Inception and Interstellar. And the most recent one, after they lift up the MCO, I went to see it was Tenet. T-E-N-N-E-T. Christopher Nolan latest movie. Very good. Now, this is a history. It is based on the Second World War when the Alliance lost the Battle of France, and they actually went to Dunkirk. It's about excavating 400,000 soldiers. Very interesting. Now, why this? Actually, this movie won 3 awards. It won the best film editing, the best what do you call? I think music, and one more I cannot remember. Even though it did not win, it did not won the best cinematography award, but I liked it very much. Do you know why? Because actually this movie are shot on land, at the sea, and in the air. And this movie is a very boring movie. The dialogue are very minimum, very little talking, very little dialogue. But this movie grossed the highest World War II film, 526. It's even higher than the, what do you call Pearl Harbor. 526 million World War II movie. If you have not seen this movie, go and see. I watched this movie 3 times. And these are some of the scenes from Dunkirk. It's about cinematography. It's how they film it. Now, can you do your slides with narrative? That means the slide actually can tell certain part of the story. You can. What you do is you combine photography with typography. Now, what is typography? I'm sure you know what is photography. Typography is actually the art of arranging words and letters. We see it very often every day. Magazines, advertisement, poster, billboards, movies, everywhere is typography. Now let's take a look at a simple slide design. Now this is the common, just now from the beginning I have shown you some of the master trainer, they use slide like this. This is the easiest way to, I would say the laziest way to design a slide. You just slam in some of the words, the letters inside. That's it. You don't even bother to change the color of your background. So what you can do is you can just add in some colors. Don't you think it look better this way? Now why I choose red? Because this slide sucks. Just like what Guy Kawasaki said. So what you can do is you can change the size of your text. This is typography. Now this is called typography hierarchy. Now when you look at this, comparing with just now, your eyes will focus on the middle word, the largest one, which is not sun, correct? This is how it works. Now if you can put in an image at the back of the letters, don't you think it looks like a movie? It's more like a motion pictures. It is telling you something. Now, first thing, if you want to design your slides, which is more what you call captivating, the first thing you have to learn is you must drop your bullets. Now, I find it very difficult initially when I first started back when I first bought my first computer. You know, when I saw people presenting, I said, fantastic. You can load all, even though it's in point form, at least I can remember. Actually, the best thing that PowerPoint can provide a presenter is the use of PowerPoint in the slides. And to make it come out one by one, the animation, I can control. That's the best. And this is what kills your presentation. It is the same thing. Just like if you own a gun, the gun don't kill. The person who owns the gun, who pull the trigger, actually kills. So if you don't use, if you need to deliver 6 of this point, so what you do is you break it into 6 different slides instead of 1 slide. It's the same thing. But sometimes you cannot. It could be an agenda slide. You want to show everything. So what you can do, there are many ways you can do it. This is one way I'm going to show it to you. Say if you want to present, if you own a fitness center, you want to tell people this could be your starting slides that, you want to tell people that your fitness center actually provide all this training. And then after that, you go one by one. No, you can do this. You don't need to. One more time. You see, it is so nicely done compared with just now that I'm going to show you some example of how I do it. So if you want to present numbers, instead of putting 9 million, you put all the 0 up there. And this is a typography hierarchy. Your eyes will definitely concentrate on the numbers first, right? It will attract your attention. So this is what you want to do. Every slides that you design, you must have somewhere in the slide that will capture the audience attention first, which is very important. If not, your audience will start to take up the handphone and they will look at text, and probably they will probably go to toilet. They will have all kinds of excuse. They will walk off. I'm sure you have experienced that before, isn't it? Now, what about if you want to design a slides whereby you do not want to put in a background? Let's say like this, you want to promote a product specifically. Your center of attraction is that product. And you don't want the background to create confusion. Now, if you really want to project this as a product, if you're going to put some background at the back, the background may actually do not actually enhance. So what you can do with this, to make this better, this is what you do. You can play around with colors. You see? Correct? It is telling you something rather than just like this. Look at that. You just let the slide move first, then you continue. Then what about sports? You can do this. You see? It's movement. What about this? You see, this gives you a 3D effect. You see? This is not, now all my slides are done in PowerPoint. I do not know how to use Adobe Illustrator. Everything, there's no special effect, is very easy to do. Or you only need to know some simple PowerPoint tricks. You know how to use some of the tools, that's it. The most important tool that you use is a cropping tool. You must know how to crop images. What about this? You see, it gives you a sense of speed rather than giving you the whole background picture of the crowd. What I do is I cut it. But how do you do this? Only part of the pictures. It's all due to cropping. Now, this is the most difficult data storytelling. How to make it cinematic. You know, a lot of people, if you go online and search, there are a lot of courses that teach data storytelling. But what is data storytelling? How to put it in the most cinematic way? Now, I did a redo of this. Let's say for me to present this. This is from the Department of Statistics in Malaysia. So how am I going to present this in the most cinematic way? So this is what I do. You see, I will first remove all the words. I don't need the wording. You don't need the wording. You can memorize a bit, the important ones, and after that, you just elaborate. This is how I would do it. Okay, then I will take over. Our economic growth, blah, 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 and all those. You see how I do it? I start with this image first. Then I make it dim. You see, all you need to do is some simple animation. There's no drastic or, you know, you're not trying to impress people with animation flying here, flying there, no. And this is a very common workflow, or I call it workflow roadmap chart, a very common used by technical people, engineers, when they want to explain about the project, you know, what are the phases. So I believe that this is what people do. So this is what I did. Don't you think this is more captivating? This is more attractive? Don't you think you can wow your audience? Will your audience listen to you? Or rather than this, you put this up, the audience will start to take up their phones. And they'll look at the text. But you present with this, it's different. Now, if you're working for a company, and the company require you to do some presentation, if you're going to present like this, it is not just what do you call doing your job well. You are actually displaying your capability. You know? Your superior, your CEO, or your boss, you may see, wow. Then probably after this, he will ask you, where do you learn to do this? You know what I mean? Because this is going to be very impressive. This will enhance of how your superior look at you. Because you put in effort to do every slide. Don't worry. Initially, you could be slow. But after some time, you will be very fast. It's very easy to do. You know the whole concept of how you're going to do it. Now, let's take a look at another one. What happens if you want to display ranking? Now, this actually is considered very good. It was quite professionally done. But this is not the cinematic form. It uses the map of China, and you know, they put the colors onto the map, and they display. It's okay. It's not too much. And then you can explain. It is considered okay, fine. This is what a lot of people are doing. It's considered very good. But if you want me to do it, I will do it this way. You see the difference? Let's take a look again. This is the original slides, and this is my slides. You see? So you just let it enough information for you to tell the story. This is data storytelling, but in the cinematic way. There are more, of course, because I cannot put in everything and show you. It will be very long. Now, the last part is how are you going to deliver it? Now, as a presenter, you are just like an actor. You have to deliver it. You are the artist. In a movie, you have to act. With the screenplay, with the camera shooting you, you have to act. This is also the same. You have to deliver. People are watching at you. Now, you want people to look at the slide and read, or you want people to listen and look at you when you speak? Of course, you need to. Now, in the information age, you are only as valuable as the ideas you have to share. Now, when you put this short sentence, when you read it from the sentence, it's okay because it's not a lot of text. And there is a picture to show that, there are many, many instances that you need to share information. And if you can do it well, it is so different. Now, the US election may have just ended. You've seen the way they speak. Of course, not Donald Trump lah. You see how Obama speak those days? They can speak just like that. They are fantastic. Now, this technique can be learned, but you don't need, when you have a presentation, you don't need to. There are many. I'm going to teach you one technique that you can use. Now, what happens if one day, if you are invited to speak? Now, this is going to be my dream, of course. I believe that one day, before I die, of course, probably someone would recommend me, would propose that I can speak in TED. Now, what happens if someone approach you and asks you to speak? How are you going to do it? When you speak at TED, you can use slides. You can use certain number of slides, not too many. And with slides, of course, it's better because you are going to captivate your audience, you to attract the audience attention. And when you speak, they listen. Now, I'm sure you have, just now I have explained to you how Steve Jobs did it with the iPhone launch. He uses the same technique. If you do not believe me, you can buy this. There's a book written of how to present like Steve Jobs. It's not written by him. He actually, I have read the book, he actually explained how he uses the villain. Actually, it's the villain and hero story. It is the same format that he used. Now, don't you want to present like master storyteller Steve Jobs? There is one person who actually following his method to present, and he is also known as the Steve Jobs of China. He is the CEO of Xiaomi. Okay. Now, Steve Jobs' presentation is so effective, so compelling, and so memorable. Now, just now I have shown you that he used a lot of visuals. Now, if you really want to design your visual, and those visuals that is designed by professionals, you have to be very simple. Now, you must attract people within the first 3 seconds, and people really know what you're trying to tell them in first 3 seconds. If not, you're going to lose the audience. And the image that they use must be relevant. I have seen people, some of the presenters, they put up images just for the sake of putting the images, just to want them to look nicer visually. But actually, it's not relevant. Have you seen slides like this before? There are plenty of them. And the third thing, it has to be captivating. If it is not attractive, it is not going to capture your audience, then don't use it. Now, I'm just going to show you some of the portfolio that I have done. I've done many slides. And coming to this stage, I found that this is something that I'm very passionate about. Even during this COVID-19, the 2.5 months, you are stuck at home, I actually did one presentation slides about the COVID-19, right? Now, this is slides. This is the slide deck. This is only some of the sample slides that I've taken out. I was invited to give a speech for the millennials, for the graduating student in University Malaya. And this is a slide that I did. Do you see? Very, very minimal text. Because when you present to young people, you have to use slides that they are attractive. You have to speak their language. You see, I use all these all young people. You see, all those people are young people. I cannot put an old guy like me up there. It's different. And when you use slides like this, when you're talking their language, they will sit down and listen to you. And this is a paid project. Company paid me to do a project. Okay, and I developed I think 3 or 4 decks of slides. This is one of the decks that I developed. It's about a product. And this is another project I did for another company. It's about cordyceps. In Chinese, it's called 冬虫虫. So, which I did for them. They launched this product. Now, you see this format is actually the 4:3 format. The rest is all 16:9. Now, I'm sure you know what is 16:9 and 4:3 by now. 16:9 is widescreen, just like the computer screen. If you talk about 10 years ago, computer screen is still the squarish one, which is the 4:3. Actually, I do not know why that the computer screen takes so long to change to the widescreen format. If you look at movies, movies have been adopting the widescreen format actually back in those days. One of the very first movie that I seen when I was a kid is actually Ben-Hur. It's CinemaScope, if you still can remember. So if you develop slide, please don't use the 4:3 format, because 4:3 format belongs to the dinosaur age. Unless you want to show people something else. You want to compare a comparison, you want to talk about old things, you're going to use a lot of black and white. Old visual is different. Now actually when I was developing this slide, there was a transition. There were not too many people using widescreen. What I did was I did some visually I make it so that it looks like a widescreen. So I put all the text and letters on the top and the bottom, and this is the deck of slides I did. Of course, I did many more decks of slides. Okay, I believe that probably one day I can show all to you. Now, this program which I have developed, in order for me to teach everything to you, I have actually developed a program. Actually, this program was meant to be for the corporate, but because of the MCO, I am launching the program online, and it's going to be a very comprehensive. Okay, whatever that you want to present, whether it's based on research that you want to present, more report based, or product launch, or a sales pitch, investor sales pitch, or you want to present financial report, because you can design your slides in the form of data, or it could be your keynote address. If you are a CEO of a company, if you are asked to present some keynote probably about your company or whatsoever, if you are allowed to use slides, so you can use this. So in my program, it's divided into 3 categories, but actually about 70% is all visual. Okay, I will talk about the development of your storyline, which I've just elaborated just now, the importance of storytelling, movie story narrative, how you write your narrative, the 3 act structure, the villain and hero storyline, how you develop it, and how to create establishing shots for slides, and storyboarding and script. You still need to write your script, because if you do not write your script, you are not going to remember. So you still have to write it down first. And I'm going to put in some activities to actually to help you to write down whatever that you think in your mind, that you can put it down, jot down all your ideas. Now, when it comes to the designing part, it is a visual thinking. What is visual thinking? How to think visually. Okay, I'll teach you a little bit about photography. It is not a photo. It's not. I'm going to talk. Even though I have been into photography as a hobby for so many years, I'm not going to teach you everything about photography. But certain aspect of photography you need to learn. Even though you don't need to take the photo, but you need to look at the photograph at an angle that you can crop the image to the image that you want to put on your slides. Now you see all my slides, the visual are very nice, but actually all are cropped. Okay, I will also show you where to find royalty-free, even for commercial use, royalty-free images, which is free, you can use. Okay, I'll talk about fonts and colors. All right, how to develop cinematic looking slides, even though the slide could be not telling you anything, but it sure looks cinematic. Okay, then I will also teach some advanced slide design. As you can see, some of my slides are, why is it like that? Why I can put the wording behind an image. So I will also teach you, all right, and of course how to do cinematic data storytelling and delivery. Now delivery, just now I talked about, you don't actually need to remember your script. Now there are actually four methods of delivering a speech. The first method is called manuscript type. The manuscript type is actually you wrote it down and you are allowed to carry the script. Normally you put it at the rostrum, the podium, the rostrum, and you can just read it like that. Many politicians or many bosses of companies, they are not good presenters. They will normally use this. It is okay. People still can accept it. The second type are called memorized script. You memorize the whole script. Now, the thing about memorized script is it is very robotic. Now, I'm sure you can tell people who are memorizing the script, and when they deliver, you can just tell. The third one, which is the most difficult, is called the impromptu speech. Impromptu is you do not know. Someone asks you, hey, why don't you just share something? You know, how come some people, when they just go up, they can just talk, and it's so interesting. Now, this takes years. It could be the person is gifted. It could be through practice. Now, people who are Toastmasters, I'm not a Toastmaster. People who are Toastmasters, I admire them because they can speak very well. Now, those are called impromptu speech. And the fourth type is called the extemporaneous speaking type. What is extemporaneous? Extemporaneous actually work very well with visual. Why? Because number one is you need to have a structure. You remember the story. You don't actually remember the script. So all you need to do is to remember the visual, the storyline, the whole story, which is only 9 slides, the backbone, the what do you call the framework. And of course, initially you write your script. So when you are reading the script one or twice, or probably a couple of more times, then you just throw the script. Why? Because you just need cue. So your slide will become your cue. When you advance this slide, you know what to say next. So this is called extemporaneous speaking. It is not so robotic. It is more like conversation. All right? Now, and I will also talk about, let me go back. You talk about non-verbal communication, which is online, of course, it's difficult to do live, which is actually body language. Okay, of how you're going to use your voice tone, how to introduce your hook. Now, this is important. Now, my favorite of introducing a hook is using the word imagine. I used it very often. Imagine. When you open your speech, you know, sometimes when you're asked to present something, you don't have to go out and say, oh, my name is so and so. No need. Because there will be someone who introduced you. Or even though nobody introduced you, your first slide when you show is already you. You know, sometimes you have to present. You are the CEO of this company, or you are the marketing director of this. You don't have to explain, you know, to the audience what you do. You don't need. So when you go up, instead of your slide is there, you can just use a hook, just like what Steve Jobs did. Imagine today we live in a world where there is no viruses. Imagine. So people will imagine, you see. Okay, so how do you prepare from your presentation? And finally, I will give you a final project, and every one of us have to do this project. And We will meet again in 2 weeks' time to review what we did on that project. Now, so this cinematic visual storytelling is going to be an 8-hour online training program using Zoom. Break up into 2 days, Saturday and Sunday, 4 hours each.